So with the Cardfight Vanguard Overdress dub premiering this weekend, it kind of got me thinking about Vanguard's English versions that we've gotten over the years. Because, well, to be honest with you, they've done some interesting things with these dubs. Now, a lot of people don't care about the Vanguard dubs. A lot of people are against English dubs in general, but truth be told, I've never really cared about the dub versus sub debate. All I care about is getting the best version of a character possible. And throughout numerous anime over the years, the answer to that has just been to stick with the Japanese, but sometimes the English dub does come out on top. And I think we should take a few minutes to pay homage to some of the more interesting performances we've gotten from Vanguard over the years, because I think there is a lot to talk about here. So let's just try and go through it. There's not going to be really any structure to this video or organization. It's just me taking some time to talk about some performances. So let us begin, of course, with where Cardfight Vanguard begins, with Aichi Sendo, our original protagonist. This is a pretty interesting character for an actor to have to portray, because unlike most protagonists for shows like this, he's not like in your face, he's not loud, he's not stubborn, he's not any of those generic traits. Instead, Aichi is weaker, he's soft-spoken, he's calm, he's quiet, he's shy. The big thing about his voice is that it's very feminine in the Japanese. That really sets him apart from his contemporaries, and it's something I always really liked about Aichi. There's a reason that voice is so synonymous with him. So for the English dub, it was never gonna sound the same. This is the big thing in the sub versus dub debate I can't stand. When people are like, oh, well, it doesn't sound like the original, so it's just bad. No fucking shit. Like, people don't have the same voice. It's ridiculous. And more importantly, Japanese voice actors a lot of times are trained differently than English voice actors. English voice actors aren't really told to do kind of like these sort of more feminine, kind of softer, kind of almost whiny at times voices. So a lot of times these characters in English dubs of stuff tend to come off as very off, but I think Aichi's dub voice actually fits rather well. Like, it nails everything it needs to nail. When the character is in moments of feeling weak, he's weak. When he's meant to be likable, he's likable. Funny, funny. Everything just fits right. The big thing that I think really separates the performances, though, is when Aichi is under the control of the psychology or whatever the fuck. The Japanese voice actor went with a much more sadistic, kind of like angry, violent voice, whereas the English dub almost went with making Aichi sound like he was more drunk with power than anything else. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, that's a really interesting choice. They completely changed the feel of the character and what's going on in the story arc just through the performance alone. And again, whether you think one is better than the other is totally up to you, but at least they went with a different take. And that's what I'm looking for with a lot of these performances. Did they try and do something to separate themselves and make it worth checking the show out a second time in a different language? And I think in Aichi's case, yeah, they did a good job. Which is interesting because I'd like to now talk about a performance that went very wrong for English, and that being for Ren Suzugamori. Ren's big defining trait from a performance perspective, at least in my opinion, is that voice-wise, he's kind of just evil Aichi. Like, he also has that sort of feminine sound to him, but he's much more like cold, calculating, sadistic, sort of dark. Like, he's the antagonist for season 1, so that's how he's going to sound. From season 2 onward, it's pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. It becomes very insufferable throughout the rest of the show because it's just annoying, carefree, and kind of douchey. But I think the actor in season 1 did a very good job. The dub guy, though, on the other hand, this is not good. The thing is that he chooses to drop the sort of... He doesn't do a version of Ren's, like, feminine voice. He doesn't really try and include the more sort of, like, intelligent, sadistic nature. It's really just a generic, like, sort of aloof villain performance, like anything you'd find on a normal, like, American show. There's nothing about it unique, there's just nothing about it that stands out, and it is a shame because I think an actor, if he tried to, like, sort of go to those places that you need to go for Ren, could make a scary villain, and he just doesn't. Moving on, now that I think you've all gotten an idea of what I'm sort of looking for here, I think we can kind of breeze through these next few. Kai is a challenging one because there's not a lot for an actor to do with Kai. Kai, especially in the original series, doesn't have much of a personality or a character. He's just angry and just wants to play card games all the time. That's it. There's nothing for an actor to do there. That being said, I think the English guy is a little bit, I don't know, this is a strange one because both actors just sound bored. Maybe these two are about the same. The one thing I'll say is I love the way the English dub actor just goes, Draconic Overlord. I don't know, he always just sounds like he's about to ejaculate. It's just kind of entertaining to me. Next, we should probably talk about Chrono, since she's the protagonist of the second show. Chrono's Japanese voice, similar to Kai's, mostly sounds bored and disinterested. He doesn't really... Chrono is worse than Kai, so there's nothing for the actor to do, which is always a big problem. But I'll give the English dub credit, whereas the English guy sort of came up with the idea to give Chrono almost this, like, surfer dude sounding voice, and while he has multiple times the voice doesn't work for certain scenes, I'll at least say it's a bit more memorable. And a lot of times when Chrono says his cool lines like Chrono Jet Dragon, it is a bit more memorable, so I guess I gotta give the point there. If we're going on to performances that I give more to the Japanese, I would say my girl Masaki. You know we gotta talk about her. Japanese Masaki has a very interesting take for the voice. She almost makes the voice sound kind of sexy. I'm just gonna put it right here on Front Street. The way she talks in the Japanese, like, she kind of just always sounds like she's just trying to seduce you. I know many people are just gonna be like, what the fuck is he talking about? But this is how it sounds to me. And she does get to the dramatic places and the funny places just fine as well. But the big thing I think of with her voice is just kind of how cool and a little seductive it sounds. The English dub sort of gets rid of this, and I think the English dub actress goes for a much more grounded, realistic sounding teenager, and when it's time to get dramatic, I think she hits the beats just fine, but to me, it's just not as memorable. Convoy is probably the one I am most split on, as I feel like the Japanese actor is better in the first series, because he sounds like a real kid. But I think as far as G goes, the English dub's a little bit better because I think he sounds more kind of confident, like he's been through some shit, which is the point to G Convoy. Speaking of G, we should probably move on to some of those characters. Shion's Japanese actor is also not super memorable, but his English dub performance is much more fucking annoying, and I want to punch him in his fucking pretty boy face. I wonder if that's the intention, because Shion is strange, because he's not a likable character, even remotely. So I wonder if that was the purpose, portray him as this fancy-past little irritant. But I really can't say for certain, so for now, let's just assume they're both bad, but the Japanese version doesn't make me want to rip my ears off. Tokoha is interesting because her English dub actress changed in, like, what, season 3 or 4, I forget. The first one was good. The Japanese actress is good. The second dub voice is bad, but also coming in when Tokoha is supposed to go through this big arc that requires someone who understands the way the character thinks is just bad, so I think she does what she can. Ibuki is probably got the most unintentionally funny dub voice. It's much better in the Japanese. Let's get that right out of the way. His dub voice is bad. There's really no way around it. It's quite bad. I don't mean to offend any of these actors. You do, if any of you see this video, I know you're all trying and you do what you can with what you've been given, and obviously how you're directed is a big part of it, but Dub Ibuki is so bland and boring to listen to. I'm sorry, it's just not fun or entertaining. There's a ton more voices I could talk about. I tried to stick to important ones to me. Again, like I just said, I don't mean to offend any of the actors. Everyone does what they can with what they've been given, which, as we've talked about multiple times on this channel, isn't always much. But yeah, that was the Cardfight Vanguard dub, and some of, in my opinion, its more memorable performances. Would you like me to continue? I could always go on with other characters, or would you like me to do this with other anime? I could easily do a whole series on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dubs, for better or for worse, but tell me that below. And as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me for more anime comparisons, because again, I'm never picking a side in the dub versus sub debate. Y'all gotta get over this shit.